In today's conversation, we discuss flow state. So, we're starting a new series of videos on flow this year for your benefit. And if you're an entrepreneur, athlete, musician, artist, or creative professional, you'll find this series to be very beneficial for you. I'll be adding to it throughout the year. Now, this is also for anyone who wants to experience more bliss, ease, live from their ideal state of mind in their day-to-day lives, in their career, business, social, family life, all areas of your life. So flow state, sometimes referred to as being in the flow, is a mental state where one is present and engaged with what they are experiencing in their lives. There's a feeling of effortlessness, lighthearted focus, and joy while in flow. It can be experienced by going for a walk in nature, dance, sport, working on your project in your business, even folding the laundry, as we go about these areas from a place of flow. Self-realization and self-actualization, creativity and happiness seem to accelerate naturally while in flow. Intrinsic motivation and self-confidence are also revealed to a higher degree, and a person feels at peace with where they are now. So thus in flow, one is present to the moment, and any activity that they are involved with is as rewarding as whatever the incentive may be that the activity is geared towards. Always remember, reality is now, inside, from your vision, in which everything is allowed to unfold naturally to materialize the vision. Living from flow releases unnecessary suffering and control. As you may know, in 2013, I transitioned away from my IT business and got into consulting. In 2017, everything was set up optimally. I was earning well, saving well, and enjoying life. I took a 2-week trip to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and I had a moment of reflection. I asked myself, when was I the happiest, living with the highest degree of joy, bliss, and purpose? I realized it was while I was in flow. Now, there's various degrees of flow moments. For example, you can have a peak flow to chill flow and all the varying degrees in between. It was also while I was in flow that I felt the greatest degree of relatability with others. My social life was at its best. My business initiatives grew the fastest, and I was realizing and actualizing myself the fastest. My creativity and my ability to express my creativity also felt easy and effortless. It was also in these moments where business deals, opportunities, and unexpected income sources also seemed to show up. I would travel somewhere and I'd say to myself, wouldn't it be nice to meet someone and have this certain experience? And the person would show up exactly as I imagined them. This kind of magic and synchronicity seemed to always be around while in flow. So I had this idea, what if I made flow a priority? And so I committed to it, and as a result, my life evolved for the better and continues to do so, all by making flow a priority. So no matter what I do, flow is there. The degrees may vary, but it is still there. Even in the most challenging moments, I'm able to step into the flow somehow. And this is my earnest desire for you as well. I believe this magical way of being is also a natural way of being. For example, let's look at the neurotransmitters that are released as you live from your flow. Dopamine is released, which increases attention, information flow, and pattern recognition. Norepinephrine triggers a glucose response in which we reveal a higher degree of energy, increased arousal, attention, neural efficiency, and emotional relatability, thus producing a high type of feeling. Endorphins are also released to relieve pain, and induce pleasure. Serotonin fills the brain with an afterglow effect. This leaves you in a feeling of bliss, which is felt while transitioning from a peak flow to more of a calm flow. This is powerful because it helps us reflect on the value of flow so we can acknowledge the benefits we have experienced, which kept reminding me of the importance of living from the flow state. Anandamide is also released in flow states, elevates mood, relieves pain, and has also been proven to amplify lateral thinking, the ability to link disparate ideas together. This reduces overthinking, emotional turmoil, and unnecessary overwhelm by complexity in mind. So anandamide, as you may know, is a fascination of mine. It was the first endocannabinoid to be discovered. It participates in the body's endocannabinoid system by binding to cannabinoid receptors, the same receptors that the psychoactive compound THC acts on. The name anandamide comes from the Sanskrit word ananda, which means bliss. So we see then, to live in flow, to prioritize your flow, is to actually live in your bliss. So now let's discuss experiencing flow and living from it every day. As mentioned to me, this is a priority. I find from living this way for a while, I'm not interested in committing to anything unless it is flow-based. If I experience challenging activities or unexpected occurrences, let's say if something were to show up in business or projects unexpectedly, I'm able to still experience flow while working through it, which again is very helpful because you're able to see beyond the seeming complexity and know what to do. Now, there's a wonderful book called Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's actually recognized for having named the psychological concept of flow. He says, enjoyment is categorized by this forward movement, by a sense of novelty of accomplishment. Playing a close game of tennis that stretches one's ability is enjoyable, as is reading a book that reveals things in a new light, as is having a conversation that leads us to express ideas we didn't know we had. Closing a contested business deal or any piece of work well done is enjoyable. After an enjoyable event, we know we have changed, that our self has grown. So imagine for a moment a time in your life when everything seemed to work out for you effortlessly. The world seemed to smile with you, and others commented on your energy and how great it was to be around you. Perhaps business deals showed up unexpectedly, and you felt a deep sense of peace, happiness, and connection with your intuition. In conversations, you were quick-witted and inspired laughter and joy in those around you. You were able to easily connect with people, and people seemed to be drawn to your energy. Interesting people showed up, you had a great time relating with them, and you felt childlike again, as if life was one big playground. This is the feeling I'm describing. This is flow state. So Mihai Csikszentmihalyi describes 8 characteristics of flow. Let's explore them and encourage what is applicable in these areas to our lives. Number 1, clear goals. So we all have goals, visions, or a definite chief aim for our life. Even if they are about to surface via desire, they are still there. So I found this can be abstract, like living in flow or happiness, or specific. It's your choice. I like having a vision for my life and a certain degree of clarity in areas that are important to me, while also allowing space for the magic to reveal pleasant surprises and experiences. I'll link to a video which describes my way, the one I released last week. I'll put it in the description. So I find having a vision as well as listening to my intuition helps me feel my way through any potential throttling down my flow and adjust accordingly. Number 2, we have concentration. Now, this is lighthearted concentration or observation, which happens automatically as we accept that our vision is the present reality. If a person is calibrated to a vision, their attention and concentration automatically remains on what is related while being open to new information that is related to their vision. We can also facilitate this by setting up our workspaces and activities for focus and by removing any distractions. So how do you know when you're in the flow? Observe how you feel: joy, bliss, ease. Observe how you think: clarity. And observe how you behave naturally. Number 3, a loss of the feeling of self-consciousness, the merging of action and awareness. So this is where we feel one with our activity, project, or art. William Walker Atkinson, he had an interesting way of saying it, which he calls the unseen hand, and I'll paraphrase it here. He says, "I have felt the unseen hand, having been guided by it, having felt the kind but steady urge in the direction which it knew to be best, though my intellect failed to see the beauty of the road towards which the hand was directing me, realizing that it was intent upon guiding me in spite of my repeated assertions that I was able to take care of myself. I began to study the something that was so determined to take an active part in the affairs of my life. I started to become acquainted with it. I found that it had always been there with me. When I began to realize what I was, what was my place in the universal order of things, the presence of this unseen hand began to manifest." So, for example, the artist that notices their hand moving on its own as they paint, the speaker who loses their persona in the presentation and speaks from a deeper part of themselves, and whatever they say is dialed in with the audience, the athlete who is no longer thinking about what move to make, but is rather observing as all the moves flow naturally and congruently, the dancer who has surrendered to the flow and the body seems to move on its own. Two people, perhaps, who meet for the first time and the conversation seems to flow naturally. There's an instant synergy and the experience seems to happen on its own. This is where actions and awareness become one. The higher self and the personal self become one, rather than trying to force or control our environment. So again, how do you know when you're in flow? Observe how you feel: joy, bliss, ease. Observe clarity in mind, the way you think. And observe how you behave naturally. Everything flows naturally, authentically. Number 4, experience of time is altered. So the artist feels like they were painting for 30 minutes, but it was 4 hours. They don't feel tired, but rather energized. For the performer, the performance that was 4 hours long felt like 20 minutes. And again, thoughts, emotions, behaviors flowing naturally and effortlessly while they are in their flow state. Number 5, direct and immediate feedback. So the performer steps on stage surrounded by the sights and sounds of the audience. The music starts and the performance begins. At that moment, the performer is able to synchronize based on the immediate feedback from the audience and their surroundings. They find themselves in complete sync with the environment, adapting and recalibrating as needed. One example of this synchronicity can be seen in Queen's performance at Live Aid in 1985. Freddie Mercury was completely in sync with the rest of the band and the audience, and their energy manifested as a truly unforgettable performance, a masterpiece of harmony and flow. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching the video. I'll put a link in the description to it. Number 6, harmony between challenge and skill. If something is seemingly too challenging, as we chunk it down, we find it is easier to step into the flow with it. Then when we look back, we realize we completed the whole project while we're in flow, cultivating our skills and discovering new skills all in that flow. For example, let's take an entrepreneur. Let's say they wanted to acquire 10 clients this month. Maybe they felt overwhelmed by the idea. That's perfectly fine. They can chunk it down and then they feel the flow, such as, number 1, create a list of those they know that will be interested in their product or service. Number 2, create another list of those who they know that know others who would be interested in their product or service. Number 3, create a list of groups or events where they could go reach out to those who would be interested. Then they reach out to 5 people a day and go to 1 event a week. Now the whole initiative doesn't seem overwhelming at all. Also keep in mind that as they are in flow, they allow things to happen on their own. It is this state that plays all the roles for them as they go about their lives. From being in flow state, opportunities seem to show up on their own, and they may end up acquiring the clients in ways that were different from what they had planned. The chunking down then serves as a therapeutic idea to bring them into the flow. I've seen this in my IT business as well. I grew it to success by doing this very thing, and when it did work out, I realized it happened in a way outside the plan that was even better than I thought. And so the first step reveals itself, and then the second, and so on, and before you know it, you're operating from your flow. Number 7, a sense of personal control over the situation or activity. So while we're in flow, we feel in control of our lives, not in a way controlling and forcing the outer, but rather allowing it to unfold from within. There's a feeling that we know where we're going. That's the control that's being referred to. The subconscious direction and all other control is released because we know that everything else happens naturally and organically from that state. We listen to and trust our intuition and allow things to unfold. When we commit to a project, performance, or art, we show up and operate from flow, experiencing these effects that we discuss. What we also notice is there's a sense of well-being that remains and spreads out to all other areas of our lives. And so now we have number 8. The activity is intrinsically rewarding. Effortlessness of performance. So while we're in flow, it appears we are living how we really want to live. We genuinely desire to do what we're doing, and when we show up, we enjoy it. Even if there was a seeming challenge, it further encourages and inspires our state. For example, when I first started making these videos, I found them challenging, but then I chunked it down and allowed each step to happen. I would release one, then another, and we also find by doing this, as we remain in this flow, we never seem to run out of creative ideas, as we find that everything shows up naturally in this way of blissful life. So again, how do you know when you're in flow? Observe how you feel. Joy, bliss, ease. Observe how you think clearly. Observe how you behave. You behave naturally, authentically. These 8 areas that he mentions are important to keep into consideration to observe our flow. So upon working with thousands of individuals, including myself, with respects to flow, here's how we work with this information in this video. Number 1, reflect upon this video and ask yourself, what are the experiences in my life that bring me into flow. Create a list of those experiences. Number 2, commit to in schedule, be it daily or weekly, the number one activity that reveals your flow. After experiencing flow, what you'll notice is you'll want to encourage it in other areas of your life. What I have done is over the years, identified so many different things, which I want to further discuss in the upcoming videos in the Flow series, and rearrange my entire life so that I could enjoy those experiences and as a result experience flow in all areas of my life. As mentioned, there could be a peak flow or being in the zone, and then there's more calm flow. As you work with this information, you'll be able to observe how you feel, how you think, and how you behave, and you'll be able to, like a dance, bring yourself into a peak flow or calm flow upon suggestion. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. We can say, flow is my natural way of being. I do what I love and love what I do from a place of flow. This brings me a heightened degree of clarity and understanding to whatever shows up within awareness, as all is inside and the outer is a reflection of my experience and state of being inside. This flow is my priority, and my life rearranges in a flow-based way while experiencing bliss more so each day in all areas of my life in an effortless way. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.